It looks like we have four people who really want to sink their teeth into one topic. And so appropriately enough, we're going to start with Don O'Leary, who says he would like to speak about fluoride.
Just checking to see that you did leave in the budget the option for the trapdoor.
Oh, you would never know.
Okay. Anyway, welcome back, Commissioners. I'd like to talk about fluoride, okay, today, briefly. You folks are in a position to help us with a public health issue that I and many others believe need to be remedied, because fluoride is a neurotoxin and it's in our water supply. It's very simple to remove it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a quick verbal overture of the social implications of it. Okay, the folks behind me, there'll be more on the details. I've sent you at least some email on it. So I'll start with three quotes. Actually, two from Mark Twain and one from Hitler. Now that sounds like an interesting package. Anyway, Mark Twain said, "If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed, and if you do read the newspaper, you're misinformed." He also said it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them they've been fooled. Adolf Hitler, in his book Mein Kampf, said the bigger the lie, the more people believe it, which is a fact. I guess I could use to just talk about fluoride, the metaphor of the world being flat, which is perfect because it's also a lie. Because when Columbus came here in 1492, globes were selling like hotcakes in Europe in the 1480s and 90s. So basically, we've been social engineered into accepting this fluoride. Okay, there's a recent discovery in quantum physics. We're all familiar with fundamental particles such as electrons, protons, quarks, and such, and neutrons, but we've recently discovered the most prevalent matter that surrounds us in this early part of the century is called morons. Folks who go along with everything done to them without question and believe everything they see on TV. And we have studies that are bogus studies. We have, for instance, grant whores. These folks pretty much have a predetermined result before they get their grant, and that's how some of these folks get their grants at some universities. It happens. I have a lot of respect for folks with PhDs who are into their field and want to progress in their field. Although, as long as these folks, if they continue in your field, continue to keep along with new studies and do what they're supposed to and acknowledge new findings and not mimic the past, which we have a lot of in this subject of fluoride for some reason. Anyhow, what we get from the government as far as their outline on it is, if at first you don't succeed, lie, lie again. But to cut it short, I welcome you folks and invite you with the public to try and remedy this and at least learn about it to decide for yourselves whether or not we should remove fluoride from our water supply. I think you'll find that we should. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me add two things right now, and the next person is Corey Sterner. Mr. O'Leary knows that he has 3 minutes, but I neglected to mention it. You have 3 minutes. There are little ice cream colored bulbs there. The yellow is, I think, the 30-second warning. We ask that you try and limit your remarks. If you're not expert at doing so, it's understandable. You might go a little over. The other thing is, when we have a petition from the public to do something in particular, we refer it to the manager, clerk, chair, and vice chair of the board. We call that agenda review. And then we will get back to the public or the board members who make the petition as soon as we have a definitive answer, and we'll share it with you. So, Mr. Sterner.
Hi, thanks, Barry, for the introduction. Yeah, my name's Corey Stermer. It's my first time here. but I've actually lived in the area for 28 years as of this Labor Day. My parents moved me here when I was about 2 months old. And so at this point, about 99% of the water that I've ever drunk has been, from the public water supply in Orange County, Durham, and Raleigh. And so, given that our cells are 75% water, I can't think of a more important issue to address than what goes into our water. And of course, Don introduced the fluoride subject. So I'd like to kind of just give a more common sense discussion about the total lack of moral, scientific, and medical authority for a board such as this one or any other one really to add fluoride to the water for the purposes of preventing tooth decay, which is its stated reason. The first principle I'd like to mention is the precautionary principle, which is used by policymakers to justify decisions in situations where there's a possibility of harm from taking that particular action. So fluoride definitely qualifies as one of those decisions. The principle states that if an action or policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or to the environment in the absence of scientific consensus that the action or policy is not harmful, the burden of proof that it is not harmful falls on those taking the action, which would be the board or the government. And so in regards to, the possibility that this is harmful, we have a lot of recent studies that indicate that it might be. The Lancet, which is a well-known medical peer-reviewed journal, recently added fluoride to one of the possible neurotoxins for children. In Durham, they actually cut off fluoride for a period of 11 months when I was like 4 or 5 years old to look at what the effects would be, and they found that the incidence of dental fluorosis went down, which is the physical manifestation of overexposure to fluoride. And then they cut it back on at the end of that study. So it's very strange. But then on a legal level, in the general statutes, they have criminal sanctions for anyone who distributes anything for a medical purpose like a drug, aka fluoride, without a license. And this would be a good example of that. And of course, we know it is a drug because it's being administered to prevent tooth decay, and the FDA defines a drug as any article intended to change the human body. So I know I have 4 seconds left, but my point here is we shouldn't be medicating people against their consent. We shouldn't have to pay for it, and if there are known risks, it's on you guys to prove that it's not harmful, and I just don't think any government has done that at this point. So, thank you.
Thank you. Zach Davidson?
Good evening, Board of Commissioners. It's my pleasure to speak here for this brief interval that I have. Along the same lines as Dawn and Corey about the issue of fluoridation of the public water supply. And I just wanted to touch on a couple experiences I had recently in bringing this issue up in other public venues. One was I actually went to an OWASA board meeting about a year and 4 months ago. And I was witness to a public admission on the part of OWASA that they indeed acquired their fluoride products from aluminum and fertilizer industries, and that such fluoride products are brought to the facility and added under the auspice that it's a dental benefit, which is dubious at best after more exhaustive long-term studies from when it was initially justified to put it in the water. And my main question upon realizing that was, how is it that fluoride and public fluoridation is able to subsist on the idea that fluoride is this innocuous ion, when in fact the substance by which it's added is actually a chemical byproduct that's acquired? and that a lot of the chemicals that operate under the heading of fluoride actually are not simple ions and are not simple compounds. Hydrofluorosilicic acid, even in small doses, is a level 4 CDC corrosive. It has to be handled extremely carefully, a lot of time in hazmat suits. And so my main question is, amidst all of the conflicting scientific evidence, which there is a plethora of, why is the addition of so-called fluoride byproducts, many of which are irrefutable corrosive poisons, including the hydrofluorosilicic acid that is bought by OWASA and thus taxpayers, why is that an acceptable practice that is subsidized by public funds? And I know that there are pre-established answers and justifications for it, but I think that the main emphasis should be a conscientious, ethical one that's based not just on medical consent, but as a civil rights issue, as something that's persisted for decades, 60 years about, in most parts of the country where fluoridation is still practiced. I know I've got only 3 seconds left, but I just want to re-emphasize a lot of the main issues that have been brought up along ethical, medical, and economic public funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Maddie Rose Crowder.
Greetings, everyone. This is my first time doing anything like this. I'm also speaking about fluoride as well. According to an article by Dr. Joseph Mercola, junk food and soda ruin children's teeth, not a lack of fluoride. In an article he wrote July 14, 2012, he stated that 41% of American adolescents now have dental fluorosis, unattractive discoloration and mottling of the teeth, indicating overexposure to fluoride. He went on to say that fluorosis is not just cosmetic, but that fluoride is a toxic agent that accumulates in sensitive tissues over time, wreaking havoc with enzymes and producing a number of serious adverse health effects, including neurological and endocrine dysfunction. He said that there are over 100 published studies illustrating fluoride's harm to the brain, plus 25 published studies directly linking fluoride exposure to reduced IQ in children. He also stated that even promoters of fluoridation now admit that fluoride's predominant action is on the surface of the teeth and does not produce any positive effects on the teeth when ingested. Also, according to Dr. Paul Connett, author of his book, The Case Against Fluoride, the chemical that is now added to the water supply is hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a toxic byproduct of the phosphate fertilizer industry. It is not even pharmaceutical-grade fluoride. Dr. Weston Price, author of his classic book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, said that native tribes who were eating their traditional diet had nearly perfect teeth. But when these tribal populations were introduced to sugar and white flour, their health and their teeth rapidly deteriorated. Most people whose diet includes very little sugar and few processed foods have very low rates of tooth decay. In another study done by the World Health Organization, they discovered that tooth decay declined in all the countries they studied, and it didn't matter whether the water was fluoridated or not. On another note, the Israeli Minister of Health just recently decided to take fluoride out of Israel's public water. There are also ethical considerations. Many people would say that forcing fluoride on all public water customers violates their right of refusal and their right to be informed of the possible risk involved with fluoride consumption. So, since fluoride doesn't help the teeth unless it's applied topically to the teeth, and since there are many studies showing how fluoride is harmful to the other tissues in the body, and since people who want to apply fluoride topically to their teeth can do so very easily and inexpensively with a $1 tube of toothpaste, almost done. And since the economy is really bad and we should be doing everything we can to eliminate all the unnecessary spending from the county budget, therefore, it's my humble opinion that fluoride should be taken out of our public water. Thank you. Raw, organic, non-GMO food.
Thank you, and as I said before, this will be referred to staff, and as Mr. O'Leary and others know, we do actually listen to the public, and we will give this consideration. I will add, to quote Mr. Davidson, this is not just a pre-established answer or justification, but I would point out that we don't actually provide water to anybody. Orange County government has 2 out of the 9 seats on the OWASA board. Hillsborough, Durham, and Mebane are the water suppliers besides OWASA in Orange County. But that doesn't mean that we do not take an interest in what you just said, whether we won't pursue it. But just understand this is not something, a function of Orange County government per se. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to a matter that's not on the printed agenda? Okay, well then we'll move to, and thank you all.